What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, and I've got a treat for you guys today. I've got a video coming in with Cenk Uygur. Oh, everybody's favorite left-wing progressive pundit, right? A populist pundit. As a matter of fact, a presidential candidate. Which, in all honesty, I think, even though he's deranged, a lunatic, I think he would have done better than Kamala Harris. Because he would have taken the left-wing populist movement and elevated it. Kind of like Donald Trump did. He would have elevated the left-wing populism in this country and maybe made it mainstream. I don't know. Don't know, but this guy's deluded as hell. And some of these answers will blow your freaking mind. Well, maybe not. If you know Cenk Uygur any sort of well, then it might not blow your mind so much. But I was just taken aback with some of these answers. And it seems like he's actually being genuine with some of these answers. Let's go ahead and get into this thing, because this is crazy, y'all. But right quick, sorry, smash that like button for me if you don't mind. If you're new around here, I normally cover the manipulations of the corporate press, so subscribe to stay up to date with how you're being manipulated. But let's go ahead and get into this thing, because this is great, y'all.
Yeah.
Right. So where's the fascism?
So he says, I'm going to deport all the undocumented immigrants. So some people might say, yeah, good. Rip them out of their homes, 13, 15 million people, whatever it is. Oh, they're running a diner. They're beloved in their neighborhood. They married an American citizen. Whatever they did, I don't care. And, oh, their kids are American citizens. Rip them away from their babies and send them the goddamn back home. Now, that's a debatable point as to whether that's fascism. My guess is that once if he starts doing it, and you start seeing people ripped out of their homes, that people are going to go, oh, that don't look good.
I don't think he's going to do that.
Yeah. Well, okay, we're going to find out. He might not. We're going to find out.
But okay? If he was to, let's say, I think the more likely scenario, I don't know if you agree with Cenk, but I think it's possible that this is the more likely scenario, is he deports all the people who've committed a crime in this country, who are illegal immigrants, right? People not only came here illegally, but have committed a crime, and people who don't have American family and don't have dependents here. Let's say he was to deport all those people. Would that be fascism in your view?
I don't even know if he deported all the undocumented immigrants, it would be fascism. I'm not even stipulating to that.
Okay, so let's get to the fascism, though, because this is what I want to get to, right?
And by the way, people who committed crimes should obviously be deported.
Right.
No one disagrees with that.
So,
Okay, so the absurdity of all that, ripping people away from their babies. Are you crazy, Cenk Uygur? Are you really that deluded as to think that they would rip families apart and send just the criminal aliens home? What? No, you don't rip people away from their babies, for crying out loud. Those babies would go with those people. Go back to whatever country you came from. But if these people are living in this country, have been living in this country for a long time, and are productive members of society, they probably have nothing to worry about. It's the mass amounts of criminals that the Biden administration has allowed to come into this country and just run freely all over the country, and they're committing crimes. We've got Trinidad Aragua taking over apartment complexes, for crying out loud. This is nuts, y'all. This is outright nuts. That's going to be the focus of the deportation efforts. Getting rid of people that have zero ties to this country. Zero ties. You get rid of those people first. Good luck with getting all the criminal aliens out of this country. Once again, if he deports all of the people I just talked about, and then all that's left is productive members of society, the dreamers, the people that came here for a better life. And he comes out and says, we're going to give these people a pathway to citizenship, a much easier pathway to citizenship. I think that would be the greatest olive branch in American history. To the left, who have gone deranged with Donald Trump, they would have zero argument. It would be beautiful. It would be a very good way to shut these people up. Make people like Cenk Uygur eat freaking crow. That would be just lovely. But this wasn't the most insane part of this. This was just the start. You just gotta love that. Rip them away from their babies. Rip them out of their homes. Good luck with that, buddy. Let's keep going.
So then the thing that I'm concerned about is both him and the potential attorney general saying, if you're on a campus and you're protesting Trump, you're protesting Israel, you're protesting the oil companies, you're protesting something we don't like, arrest and deport you. Wait, what happened to cancel culture? I mean, arresting someone for protesting or voicing their speech is the most both cancel culture you could do. I mean, you're taking the guy's freedom away, right?
Yeah, agreed. But
deporting people that are American citizens. What the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, you can't do that. But did he do any of that in his first term?
So he didn't. He didn't do that. Okay. But so and that's why I say, guys, when he's running, he threatens to do total complete shutdown of Muslims. Yeah. He threatens to arrest and deport people, etc. But he didn't necessarily do it. So, for example, they said lock her up, and then he got into office and he said, no, I'm not locking Hillary Clinton up. So I have an open mind. But when he threatens those type of things, I go, I am deeply, deeply concerned.
Okay, so I searched and searched and searched for any evidence that Trump ever said he was going to actually deport protesters. American citizens, right? You can't do that. This is all absurd. It's like these people can't understand a joke. Now, he's joked about that before, sure, but that's comedy. That's not serious, actual policy positions, Chink. Like, I'm very concerned about this. And then he goes on to mention the Trump Muslim ban. Oh, he's banning all Muslims. Well, in fact, that has been debunked outright. Check this out. Trump most recently issued a proclamation restricting certain nationals of Iran, Libya, Somalia, Syria, Yemen, and North Korea. Oh, wait, North Korea? That's not a Muslim country. From obtaining visas to travel to the U.S., certain Venezuelan government officials and their families were also barred. Oh, communist Venezuela. The first 5 countries are majority Muslim nations, but that's far from banning all Muslims. In fact, in January 2017, the Pew Research Center estimated that Trump's original executive order would affect only about 12% of Muslims in the world. That was when restrictions were also placed on Iraq and Sudanese nationals who have since been excluded. So, he's only talking about from these certain countries because these certain countries are terrorist hotbeds. Imagine that. Imagine that. We don't want another 9/11, so sure, banning travel from those countries, yeah, that's just smart politics. That's just in the interests of national security. But Cenk Uygur blows past all this and goes with the false fact, if you will, because that's what they're calling it. It's disinformation to say, oh, he's going to ban all Muslims again, y'all. And this is a genuine concern on the left. Oh, he's going to ban Muslims. No. Sorry. No. Not even close. Once again, talking about Hillary Clinton, lock her up, lock her up. Well, you know what? Did she deserve accountability? Yes. She most certainly did. Did Trump bring us accountability for Hillary Clinton wiping email servers, wiping the hard drives? No, he didn't. As a matter of fact, when he should have. When he most certainly should have. But there's a lot more derangement in here. Let's keep going.
Now, here's other things.
Okay.
So they had a 3-hour meeting after he lost the election where Michael Flynn and I believe Sidney Powell, don't quote me on that, I don't want to get sued, okay, but definitely Michael Flynn said, let's use martial law. Let's roll out the tanks, okay? And we won this election, and we're going to correct the fraud, and let's go grab the actual ballot machines, okay? And Trump was like, okay, now I'm listening. Now we're having a conversation. And that's why it lasted 3 hours.
So you
At the end, hold on.
No, hold on. You're talking about something that already happened. I'm asking you about the future. Let's just stick with that.
No, but that's totally relevant.
No, well, I'm sure, which is why I'm asking you the question to follow up.
Really? Did he do that, though? No, he didn't do that. He decided not to do that because that was an extreme maneuver, even though, looking at all the evidence, yeah, I'm still not sure that would have been a very good idea to do. That's why he didn't do it, Chink. This guy is so absurd. But look, once again, let's keep going.
So do you fear that at the end of this 4-year period, he's not going to relinquish power? Is that what you're saying?
So since he didn't relinquish power last time, yes.
Well, ultimately he did, but you fear...
Oh, come on, guys.
Fine, let's accept that for the sake of argument again. So you fear that at the end of this 4-year period, when he can no longer run for election again, you fear that he will not hand over the presidency.
A guy who said, let's terminate the Constitution, considered martial law, and had a fake elector plot to steal an election, might he try to stay in power? Of course, he tried to do it once.
Well, that's good. So we got to. So you fear that at the end of this 4-year period, he will not vacate the White House.
That is one of my concerns, absolutely, and that alone is a deal breaker.
Well, it'd be a deal breaker for anyone, left and right, no question.
Except it wasn't, because he already tried to do it, and the right was like, no big deal, no big deal.
I don't think that's
It was a giant deal.
Yeah, I don't think that's quite true. But anyway,
Okay, so this is a talking point that all Trump derangement syndrome people try to use. Oh, he said terminate the Constitution. No, he didn't. As a matter of fact, once again, here we go with the fact check. This was the post on Truth Social. So, with the revelation of massive and widespread fraud and deception in working closely with big tech companies, the DNC and the Democratic Party, which is the same thing, do you throw out the presidential results of 2020 out and declare the rightful winner, or do you have a new election? A massive fraud of this type and magnitude allows for the termination of all rules, regulations, and articles, even those found in the Constitution. Our great founders did not want and would not condone false and fraudulent elections. Now, what he is talking about here is the fact that some states defied their own constitution, changed the rules, broke the law to win an election, which they are doing this time. As a matter of fact, I just covered a story recently, Pennsylvania, lady coming out and saying this.
I move that we reject all 3 categories of these ballots.
Your motion is to reject or dismiss the challenges in this category in front of you?
Correct, yep.
Not going to second that, mostly because I think we all know that precedent by a court doesn't matter anymore in this country, and people violate laws anytime they want. So for me, if I violate this law, it's because I want a court to pay attention to it.
Yes, they don't care. They want the courts to notice. Like what? You're going to defy your own constitution to break the laws to count votes, illegal votes. That's what Trump was talking about. That's exactly what he's talking about. Not talking about terminating the Constitution in its entirety. Not at all. When the Democrats conspire in the background, shadow campaign, which, by the way, if you don't know what the shadow campaign is, at the end of this video, right here, is going to be a link. Go watch that video. It is enlightening as hell as to how the Democrats won in 2020 and exactly what they did. They won legally, right? Mostly legally, because they changed the laws, sometimes in violation of their own constitution, to do so. But even if the law change is in violation of their constitution, it's still legal under the law. And if you have activists on the federal circuit that will uphold those illegal changes to the law, what can you do about it? It's all about procedure, and it's all about who gets into power. He says Donald Trump didn't ever come out of power. That's what cenk Uygur just said. Oh, come on, guys. He relinquished power. Joe Biden has been the president for the past 4 years and has destroyed this country. What the hell is going on in Cenk's mind to where he thinks that Donald Trump has been the president still or something, and Joe Biden's just been a figurehead? Or I don't understand what the hell Cenk is talking about here. But once again, let's finish this thing out. This is the last section. Check this out.
So that's your big concern.
So that's number one. Number two is, the reason I was telling you about martial law is because he's also said, let's use the military to shoot the protesters in the legs. Let's use the National Guard to arrest citizens, etc. When you're talking about arresting or shooting U.S. citizens and you using the military to do that, because you don't like their protests. And you could be livid about their protests. It doesn't matter.
Sure, it's un-American.
They have a right to protest.
Of course.
And when he says that, and he has definitively said that and said it on the record, if you go and do that, now that there are no brakes in the car, and there is no General Milley, and there is no General Kelly, and they're not going to be able to stop him. If he does that, Do you guys agree that would be fascism?
Well, of course.
Yeah.
So,
Okay,
so
good.
your great concerns are just, so
Yep.
to replay it for people, and then I'll hand over to Francis, are number one, at the end of the 4-year term that he currently has, he's not going to hand over the presidency, number one. And number two, he is going to be deeply un-American about the way he handles free speech and the right to protest and the right to free assembly. In other words, he will take protesters and strip them of citizenship. He will have the army shoot them. He will imprison people for turning up on a college campus and burning an American flag, let's say. Those are your two main kind of like, this is the fascism that might happen. Have I got you right?
That's right. And I'm not saying it's definitely going to happen.
But that's
I'm
your
saying
concern.
he has said those things.
That's your concern.
And it makes me concerned that he will do those things.
Okay.
Okay, that was, well, he wrapped that up quite well. Yeah, that's quite delusional. That is very delusional. He is living a Trump deranged paranoid delusion is what Cenk is living in. Okay, so now to debunk all this, on May 29th, 2020, Antifa and BLM rioters stormed the White House, torched St. John's Church, forced Donald Trump into an underground bunker because they were in fear of his life, because rioters were storming the White House. They burned a guard shack in the White House. They were trying to tear down the barricade to get into the White House. Now, if you guys remember, I don't know if you guys remember, but 2020 was quite damaging to this country. There was a lot of riots amid protests. Now, the corporate press and the mainstream news just call all of that protesters. Okay, so what they're not differentiating here is Trump didn't say to shoot protesters in the leg. No, he was talking about the violent rioters. If these people storm the gates of the White House, shoot them in the leg. There you go. What is wrong with that? When people are committing violence, when they are insurrecting our government, what do? I don't know. They are not outraged by Ashley Babbitt getting killed. Now, we could come out and say that, oh, all of those people, that was just peaceful protesters. But no, what does the right do? We differentiate between the rioters and the actual protesters and say, yes, the people that rioted, the people that fought with cops on January 6th deserved to go to jail. They deserved accountability for their actions, as a matter of fact. But the people that were not violent, which there is a lot of, over 1,000, as a matter of fact, people that have been convicted and have gone and served jail time for peacefully protesting at the Capitol. We differentiate between that, but the corporate press and the left don't differentiate between the violent rioters and insurrectionists of the Summer of Love. They don't differentiate between the actual protesters that were genuinely protesting. Yeah, they don't differentiate those. So they say, oh, well, he's talking about shooting protesters in the leg. No, he's talking about people that insurrect the government, bringing in the National Guard, as a matter of fact, like this.
During the late spring of 2020, it was not a foreign crisis, but the murder of George Floyd in Minneapolis that Esper calls a turning point in his time as Secretary of Defense. On the night of May 31st in Washington, protests for racial justice were marred by rioters who set parts of Washington ablaze, and Esper says enraged President Trump. At a meeting the next morning, Esper told us the commander-in-chief was on the verge of ordering 10,000 active-duty troops into the streets of the Capitol.
What was the most disturbing thing that the president said during that meeting on June 1st?
The president is ranting at the room. He's using a lot of, foul language. You all are effing losers, right? And then he says it to the vice president, Mike Pence. He's using the same language, and he's looking at Pence. I thought we're at a different spot now. He's going to finally give a direct order to deploy paratroopers into the streets of Washington, D.C., and I'm thinking with weapons and bayonets. And this would be horrible.
What specifically was he suggesting that the U.S. military should do to these protesters?
He says, can't you just shoot them? Just shoot them in the legs or something. And he's suggesting that that's what we should do, that we should bring in the troops and shoot the protesters.
The commander-in-chief was suggesting that the U.S. military shoot protesters.
Yes, in the streets of our nation's capital. That's right. Shocking.
We have seen in other countries a government use their military to shoot protesters.
Right.
What kind of governments are those?
Well, those are banana republics, right, or authoritarian regimes. We all remember Tiananmen Square, right, in China.
Regarding whether he suggested shooting protesters, in his statement, former President Trump said, "This is a complete lie, and 10 witnesses can back it up. Mark Esper was weak and totally ineffective, and because of it, I had to run the military."
Notice, yeah, that was quite absurd, by the way. Notice the videos they shown were of violence. They weren't of protesters. And then they keep calling them protesters, proving my point outright. Just proving my point outright. And once again, they don't differentiate between these two groups because they are definitely distinct groups. You have peaceful protesters, then you have violent rioters. He's talking about the violent rioters. He's not talking about shooting peaceful protesters. Otherwise, in 2020, when those protests, he would have just deployed the National Guard, defying the state governors, because he talked to those state governors and said, hey, do you want National Guard help? Do you want military assistance? They said no. Once again, Donald Trump did not deploy the National Guard ever. For that, the states deployed National Guard. Donald Trump offered military assistance. They denied it. Then they deployed it themselves. So, all these fascist claims are bogus. And I believe they've been debunked outright. Now, what I would like to hear from you guys is if you think I'm wrong, let me know down in the comments section, because I would love to go back. I would love to give you all my sources. I will give you links to all my sources of all of this, so you can debunk yourself outright, because Donald Trump has never shown any fascist inclinations whatsoever, despite what the mainstream narrative machine tells you. They're constantly lying to you about Donald Trump. Oh, he's Hitler, he's a fascist, blah, 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 blah. People have become deranged with Donald Trump because they will take anything and everything he says seriously. Donald Trump is a comedian, not by profession, but he is a comedian. Watch his rallies. He improvs with comedy in between policy prescription and saying what the left is doing, how they're damaging this country. It's all improv. He riffs a lot, and they take everything he says seriously. Now, some of it is serious, but once again, they don't differentiate a lot of what he says from truth to reality, from everything. They don't differentiate the falsities, the jokes, from the reality. That's what I meant to say. I screwed that all up. But, you know, hey, I'm only human. I make mistakes, y'all. But they don't differentiate none of this stuff. They just take everything seriously, and then a lot of times they'll take what he says out of context and place it in different context. They'll take something he said as a joke and take it so seriously that it's so absurd that it has formed its own disease, if you will, called Trump derangement syndrome. It is outright a disease, because when given facts, when given their positions back to them clearly, like they did in this video, they're like, yep, that sounds about right. I'm genuinely concerned about this. They can't see that they sound deranged as hell, just outright. Now, the rebuttal to that might be, oh, well, you're in a cult. Am I? Seriously. I don't like Donald Trump's drone strikes. I don't like some of the decorum that we have lost with Donald Trump. Some people do like that. I don't, in certain instances. Sometimes it's funny, sure, and it's like, yes, I like how he gave this person the business. But the President of the United States sometimes needs some decorum, and Donald Trump is lacking in decorum. However, I cannot vote for Kamala Harris, who is just going to continue Biden, continue that just sprint to the left that they have been doing. They have drugged this country over the coals. And people are hurting for it, and people are tired of it, and they voted with their feet. But I think I've made my point quite clear, and I'm rambling at this point, so I want y'all to let me know what y'all think about all this down in the comments section That's all I got for this one, you guys. Don't forget to smash that like button. And y'all try to have a good day. Stay legitical. Peace.